top 10 rounds of the current ADP, full PPR, going over 120 players, deep dive and analysis. If this is what you want to watch, this video's for you. Let's get it. Welcome in, everybody, to the very first episode of Fantasy Chalk Talk. We're going over ADP today. We're going to talk about the top 120 players, see who we like, see who we don't like. I'm joined by my good friend Tyler today. We're going to kind of go all through this and kind of give our insights of what we think is going to happen. So let's go ahead and go over the very first round. We've got Jonathan Taylor at number 1, Christian McCaffrey coming in at number 2, Derrick Henry at 3, Austin Eckler at 4, Justin Jefferson at 5, Cooper Kupp at 6, Najee Harris at 7, Dalvin Cook at 8, Jamar Chase at 9, Joe Mixon at 10, DeAndre Swift at 11, and Devontae Adams at 12. Now, the very first guy that I want to dive into is Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey right now is slated to go as number 2, and for me, I think it's just a little bit too rich for my blood. He's got a little bit of an injury history here in the past few years. I'm not sure if it's worth the risk for me. I know Derrick Henry got hurt last year, but I think his injury risk may be a little bit less than what McCaffrey has shown. Now, don't get me wrong. Christian McCaffrey definitely has the ability to be the number 1 overall player this year, but I kind of want to value my risk reward. Just kind of seeing him up there at the 3, I think I'd probably take him a little bit lower, probably around 7 for me. I kind of like these other receivers and running backs ahead of that. Tyler, do you have any input on that?
Tell you what, man, every time Christian McCaffrey touches the ball, he's lightning in a bottle. You have a huge chance if he hits. Even at 102, you have a huge chance of winning your league, winning, at least making it to the playoffs. But that injury chance, that injury risk is huge. It really is. And when you're looking at that spot, Derrick Henry, Austin Eckler, could you take one of those 2 guys ahead of him? Sure, the justification could be made, but when you're talking about full PPR, that chance that he has to be that beast mode, that number 1 running back for you, it's a risk, but it could be a worthy risk.
Oh yeah, and like you said, even in the PPR, I mean, Christian McCaffrey, he's almost the offense. The dude catches so many balls per game. He catches way more than probably any other running back. Maybe Austin Eckler's up there in the numbers as well, but quite not really up there like Christian McCaffrey. Is there anybody else you want to talk about in the first round?
Absolutely, and you got to also remember in Carolina, the upgrade at quarterback, that's always going to be helpful. Down there at the bottom, Justin Jefferson, 1 step ahead of Cooper Kupp. I like Jefferson just like the next guy. I wish I could get him in my league. I probably won't be able to, but all the word out of camp is that he's more in shape than he's been in years, even after the injury last year. I really think that Thielen really could pick up some of those extra targets, maybe even more so than last year, with that extra red zone target share that he gets is really going to dip into Jefferson's production, I think.
Yeah, and I agree with it. A lot of people, they actually probably forget of how productive Adam Thielen was back in the day. He was actually a really good touchdown guy even before Justin Jefferson came in, and even the rookie year of Justin Jefferson wasn't exactly prolific like we see today. Adam Thielen was the go-to guy. And when you talk about Kirk Cousins coming into town, he loves to sling the ball around. Yeah, they do have Dalvin Cook in the backfield, but I definitely agree with you, man. Justin Jefferson, he may not be the pro bono number 1 wide receiver. I think he's definitely up there, but the debate can definitely be had between Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Jamar Chase. So
Cooper Kupp had that amazing season last year, and he could have 500 less receiving yards than he did last year and still have the number 1 wide receiver season, have an amazing season. And you've got to also keep in mind, he's got Allen Robinson there. Is he done? That's a big question. Van Jefferson could break out for a nice season. Tyler Higbee is an awesome receiver at the tight end position. And Odell Beckham Jr. is rumored to possibly go back with this team later in the season after he comes back from his own injury. So, Cooper Kupp has his own questions, but still, I don't think if it were up to me in that point in the draft, if I could take Jefferson over Kupp.
Oh, yeah. And I think a lot of people are actually having that kind of debate. Who do I take? Who's going to be the right one? There's going to be a right answer. We just don't know what it's going to be. And as I work through my way through the first round, the next guy I definitely want to bring up is DeAndre Swift. Now, I think, in my personal opinion, I think he's lightning in a bottle. But I don't know if I got down at the bottom of the first round and I'm looking at these running backs, do I want to take DeAndre Swift as my cornerstone number one guy? I'd be super nervous when it comes to DeAndre Swift. Not only they got Jared Goff at quarterback, sus. They got his offensive line, sus. I mean, who knows what's going on there? They brought some new wide receivers in there. They've still got Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and all these other guys, but who knows? DeAndre Swift should be the main guy, even with TJ Hawkinson out at tight end. I still think that DeAndre Swift's going to get his catches, he's going to get his receptions, he's going to get his rushes, but how well will they be defined? Because they're going to be in a negative game script. They're going to be losing a lot of games. So unless they're going to be dinking and dunking to him, he's really not going to put up the numbers that I think that's going to warrant him to be the 11th pick in the first round. So my opinion right there.
Tell you what, you make some good points. However, what I want to iterate here first off is that the Lions offensive line is rated as a top 5 offensive line in the NFL right now. That's a shocking stat. The number 1 is the Eagles, by the way.
Yeah.
So look out for that running back later on. But this whole end of the first round, I think I would mix up a lot. 107 for Najee Harris is way too rich for my blood. He was overutilized last year. The coaching staff, he himself has come out and said that they're going to limit his touches. They don't want to burn him out. He had over 400 touches last season. Not a single running back can deal with that, especially over Dalvin Cook at 108. Get out of here. Absolutely not. Whoever's drafting right now needs to stop it and reconsider their life choices there. Yeah. Jamar Chase at 109. Absolutely, I think he's going to be absolutely amazing this year. Joe Mixon, sure. But DeAndre Swift could be one of those guys that really shocks the world. He really turned up his numbers last season, and he could, even though the Lions are going to be one of the lower end teams in the NFL, and you don't want a running back from those lower end teams, he could still have that fantasy value with the Lions still sucking last year as well, with them being even possibly better this year. I don't know, man. He may rise up boards as the drafting season comes more upon us.
Yeah, and I completely 100% agree. I actually overlooked that, and I can't believe I actually saw that. But Najee Harris going over Dalvin Cook is absolutely crazy to me. I think Najee Harris, yes, they did upgrade a little bit of the offensive line in the offseason, but he's still got one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL. They can't block for anybody, and then they got that tussle at quarterback. What's going to happen? Is it going to be Trubisky? Is it going to be the rookie Pickett? We don't know who's going to be at quarterback, so the safeties don't have to drop deep. They're going to be playing over in the box. It's just Najee Harris. Another tip that I heard, that Najee Harris was saying himself that he's not even going to be on the field as much, so you can probably see those overall carries come down. And then on top of that, having the offensive line pretty much washed in doo-doo, I don't think it's going to work for Najee Harris. So I would definitely drop him down in the back end of the first round. There's a lot of guys I have going on actually in this second tier that I'm going over here in a second that I would actually pick over Najee Harris. Now, I think he's going to be a good fantasy running back. He's going to be a serviceable fantasy running back. But I think right now we're just nitpicking as far as we really don't want to take Harris over a couple of these other big guys. So is there anybody else in the first round before I go to the second round that you want to talk about, like anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah, the last point I want to make there is Devontae Adams there. Huge question mark. Obviously, he's had an amazing career. I think it was his third year that he finally broke out. Yeah. With Aaron Rodgers. Now he gets a downgrade at quarterback, a downgrade in team function overall. I think he could be great. I don't know.
But is it a downgrade? Because he did say he's going from Hall of Fame quarterback to Hall of Fame quarterback.
You can't listen to stuff coming out of camps this time of year. Everything is fluff. Everybody's wonderful. Oh my gosh, look at him. He's the greatest.
Yeah.
It's the positive that you want to stay away from really this time of year. When somebody starts talking negatively, though, that's the stuff you want to pay attention to. But yeah, of course, Derek Carr is we've seen it so many times. Sarcasm. So are you going to pick him over Stephon Diggs? Come on, Travis Kelce on the next two. Let's get into that second tier.
Let's go ahead and go over the second tier and kind of see what we got. We have now Stephon Diggs at the first pick of the second round. We got our first tight end coming off the board in Travis Kelce, Aaron Jones, then Nick Chubb at 5. We got Kamara. Next, we're going with CeeDee Lamb, Saquon Barkley, Deebo Samuel, Javonte Williams, our first quarterback coming off the board, and Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill, and Leonard Fournette. Now, is there anybody in this second round that you think that really sticks out to you?
Yeah, I just poked at it there a second ago, but Diggs, Kelce, I would absolutely take over Adams, Aaron Jones over Adams, Nick Chubb over Adams, and then Adams I think would sit right there. I would start questioning whether to take him over Kamara or CeeDee Lamb. My biggest issue right here on this second round draft is Josh Allen at the 2.10. Listen, guys, I understand the excitement about a top end quarterback. It's amazing. It can change the week. You have a quarterback that comes out and drops 60 points or whatever your scoring is on your opponent. Yes, you have a higher chance of winning, but you're missing out on somebody right below him, Tyreek Hill, Leonard Fournette. These type of players, these positional players are so important, and you have to fill your draft early with these positional players, especially running back, because it dries up so quickly later on in the draft. So can you take a quarterback later on like a Jalen Hurts that could be a top 5 quarterback? Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. So 2.10 right here for Josh Allen is my biggest concern.
Yeah, and the funny part is you see this actually a lot in drafts. There's some people that go into these drafts and they have this mindset, I have to get this bona fide quarterback, the Josh Allens, Justin Herberts, Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter, I want to lock it in. But what people don't understand is when you lock in a solid quarterback like that, you're actually hurting your other positions. Yes, you do have a slight, and I'm going to say slight, positional advantage with having one of these quarterbacks, but the amount of points Josh Allen scores and the amount of points Matthew Stafford scores, you take the difference of that, and you take the difference of the 2 running backs that you're missing out on, or the wide receivers you're missing out on, and you're actually losing in that deal. A lot of people actually don't realize that. But now, I'm not saying anything about Josh Allen. He's an amazing quarterback. I think we would both agree on that, but he's just not worth a second round pick when you can get much better value. And I'm going to say it again, value. That's what you got to look for when you look at fantasy football. You can get better value down at the back end of the draft where you can get a solid quarterback, but you may not be able to find that type of running back that we talk about. Now, what I want to go over is the one person that really pointed out to me. That's Javonte Williams. Now, don't get me wrong. When Melvin Gordon, when he was a free agent, he had yet to re-sign back with the Broncos. I was high on Javonte Williams. He was finally going to get his time to shine. When Javonte Williams had his time to shine in the offense in 2021, he was running like a beast. He was lowering his shoulders, running some people over, getting those hard-nosed carries. He was averaging a good yards per carry. The guy belongs as a top fantasy football running back, but people are starting to forget that Melvin Gordon is not just coming on and signing on this offense just to be second fiddle. He wants to be the main ball carrier again, and it's probably going to be close to a 50-50 timeshare. Now, will it be 55% Javonte Williams, 45% Melvin Gordon? Possibly, but you're still going to have those opportunities where Melvin Gordon's probably going to vulture a lot of the offense from Javonte Williams, which is going to lower his value just a little bit. I'm looking at Javonte Williams more about a 4th round pick, not a 2nd round pick. That's just a little bit too rich for my blood.
Tell you what, man, you make some excellent points too there. And when you look at fantasy players who switch teams, there's all kinds of questions involved in that situation. But players who stay on the same teams, especially a rookie like Javonte was last year, second year coming in, we've already seen what the coaching staff likes to do with that duo, and it's close to that 50-50 timeshare. Now there's questions. Yeah, is it going to be a 50 timeshare anymore? Yes. What you want to do is you want to go ahead and assume that what the coaching staff has done is going to continue over. They haven't had much of a coaching staff change, and Troy, you can Correct me if I'm wrong there, but the biggest change, obviously, is Russell Wilson coming to town. Russell Wilson loves to sling the ball. He's really good at it, and they've got some excellent receivers.
Yeah.
Where is that? How does that change the game? How does that change their offensive mindset?
Yeah.
We don't know yet because we haven't seen it. What we have seen is that 50-50 timeshare, and 209, definitely too high for Javonte.
And like you said, with Russell Wilson, you could probably expect they're going to be throwing the ball a lot more than last year. So will that decrease his opportunities, which is going to lower his value as well? For me, Javonte Williams is a stay away, not because of his talent, but because of his draft value. I mean, he's coming in here in the second round. I will never have any shares of him on my team because that's too rich for my blood, for sure.
And you said throwing the ball, but throwing the ball successfully. That's
Correct.
Also key.
Correct. Yeah, and then I'm looking over everybody else. To me, looks kind of fair. You know, Saquon Barkley, we do have the injury risk as well. Leonard Fournette, he's always a scary piece. He could be great. He could be good. Anything else you want to talk about before we move on to the third round?
Fun.
All right. So next we're going to go over with Mike Evans, Mark Andrews, Ezekiel Elliott, Keenan Allen, AJ Brown, Michael Pittman Jr., James Conner, T. Higgins, David Montgomery, Justin Herbert, Cam Akers, and Kyle Pitts. Now I think there's quite a bit to go over in this round. There's all types of stuff that I would love to talk about, but I'm gonna throw it to you for the very first comment on this third round.
So the first one I want to talk about there is Mike Evans. I think he's going to have a fantastic year. Yes, there's questions at wide receiver around him, but he's probably going to have 1,000-yard receiving season like he has most of his, if not all of his career before this season. Last year, some injury concern, but he's been that solid receiver, and I think he's going to continue. Mark Andrews, I think, is going to just absolutely kill it again this year. Zeke, I'll tell you what, man, this year the draft seems to be something that you could have an amazing team out of these first few rounds if you're positioned correctly. If somebody falls to you, you start out the first round with somebody early like McCaffrey, for example. You follow it up with your RB2 as Zeke in the third round here. In the second round, you picked up, Debo or CeeDee Lamb or something. You don't want to combine players like that a lot of times, running back and a receiver. But Diggs with a Zeke, I tell you what, man, some of these teams could be scary.
Oh yeah, dude, I 100% agree with you. I think in the third round, it's loaded with talent. And kind of to backtrack a little bit, I like the call on Mike Evans. I think 1,000-yard receiver, it's in his blood. It's what he does. Chris Godwin, who knows if he's going to start the season. Russell Gage just got hurt. They just signed Julio Jones, which should do that, but he's not the old Julio Jones. Mike Evans is still there. He plays a lot of games. He has a rapport with Tom Brady. And believe me, when Tom Brady needs a play, he's going to throw it to Mike Evans. He's the guy there. You can pretty much lock and load 1,000 yards for him. Mark Andrews, he's the big reason why I would never even draft Travis Kelce. I mean, look, you can go a whole nother round and get Mark Andrews, who to me is the number one tight end this season. I mean, he gets hyper targeted by Lamar Jackson. There is nobody else that he likes to throw the ball to. Maybe Rashad Bateman, but we can get to that a little bit later. But it's going to be the Mark Andrews show. And Ezekiel, like you said, he used to be the number 1, number 2 overall pick in fantasy drafts. Now that Tony Pollard's gotten there, he may be losing a couple carries here or there, but he is still the number 1 guy on this offense. And like you said, you might be able to start, get yourself a solid running back in the first round or receiver, come back in the second round, get a nice solid running back. Third round, boom, you got Ezekiel Elliott. You just started out pretty solid in your drafts. And we work our way down. Everybody knows Keenan Allen. He's a solid possession receiver. He's going to do his thing. AJ Brown moved over from the Eagles as well. I think he's going to do okay. And then we get to my guy, Mr. Pity City, Michael Pittman Jr. I think he is somebody that we definitely need to talk about because Matt Ryan now comes over to town, and who knows, will he try to make Michael Pittman his old Julio Jones? Matt Ryan has stuff to prove himself. I mean, there's to the point where people thought he was washed in Atlanta, but I don't think it was Matt Ryan's problem. I mean, you look at He had no receivers, no offensive line, no running game, no defense. He had nothing around him. And going against defenses like the Saints, the Panthers, and the Buccaneers, they had no chance. Now he moves over to a division where he's going against with the Texans and he's going against the Jaguars. They're going to dominate. They already have a good running game in Jonathan Taylor. He's got Pity City out there at the wide receiver spot. I'm telling you, I think it's going to be fireworks for Michael Pittman.
Absolutely. 306, excellent value right there. Keenan Allen, somebody else that can show up. A.J. Brown, though, question marks all around. Jalen Hurts, is he a prolific passer? Number one, no. We've already seen that. He averaged less than 150 passing yards a game last year, if I'm remembering correctly. Absolutely horrendous as far as, production there. Having AJ Brown, could that change things for him? Maybe.
It will.
That's a maybe. But
get
would
off
I
my
take
guy. Get off my guy. I think Hurts gets the truth, and he's going to show people like you wrong this season.
I hope he does, man. I'm well, as a Cowboys fan, no, but I hope for the actual players, sure, fine, whatever. James Conner, right there, going on to the next column. I tell you what, man, he could. Oh my God, it's tough to put faith into somebody like James Conner, who's let you down so many years with the Steelers. He shows up and then he gets hurt and then he goes away and then shows up for the Cardinals.
Yeah,
man, he could be amazing. He could be, another bust, but I think that he could be really, really solid. T. Higgins, though, Troy, tell me what you think here at 308. Is this really high? I mean, it feels really high.
Yeah, it may seem pretty high, but if you actually look at his numbers, T. Higgins is a good wide receiver for fantasy football. He produces at a high level. I mean, he can come in and he can be your wide receiver 2, and actually it's not too bad. Obviously, I'd probably want him as my wide receiver 3 in best case scenario, but T. Higgins puts up some numbers. Jamar Chase has awesome numbers, but not all the time. T. Higgins can easily get you 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in a game. It's just basically on the offense that he's in with Joe Burrow. But I think T. Higgins at the 308, I ain't gonna lie to you, I kind of like it. I think it's good value for him. I think he's at a good spot. T. Higgins, a lot of people, they may look at the name and might be a little too high, but if you kind of look at the people that's going after him, yeah, they may be good receivers, the McLaurins and DJ Moores and stuff, but I like the value of T. Higgins. I think if you can get a piece of this offense, whether it be with Chase, whether it be with Higgins, whether it be with Joe Mixon, you need to get a piece of this offense because they're going to put up a lot of points.
But looking at, and that's a good point, looking at the receivers after T. Higgins, McLaurin, Moore, Metcalf, Johnson on the next page, in the 4th round there that we're going to talk about shortly. But I think that there is a major tier gap from these receivers onto the next ones. There's a lot of question marks in Washington, a lot of question marks in Seattle, a lot of question marks in Carolina, a lot of question marks for the Steelers as well. So,
and that's why I'm more confident, because there's not a lot of question marks in Cincinnati. So that's why I'm probably more confident. Yeah. So.
Yeah, with receivers, you want to tie yourself to those solid top-end quarterbacks. And over the years, we've seen that quarterbacks can support multiple high-end receiving fantasy powers. And if you want to look at the top 5 quarterbacks in the league that could do that, Joe Burrow is one of them.
Absolutely. And I really do want to get your thoughts on David Montgomery. He's in an offense that's completely... It's very underwhelming. I think David Montgomery is actually going into a contract year. He's going to be playing hard. He's going to want to play good. But even though with his momentum, I'm not sure if he's got what it takes to actually be fantasy relevant this season. So what's your thoughts on him?
What if I'm coming out of the 3rd round with David Montgomery, I am biting my nails. I'm sitting on pins and needles for the season because I have zero faith in the Bears offense, defense, city, like everything about the Bears. I'm just staying away from this season. I love David Montgomery. I've had him before on my team, and I love watching him play. He's a great running back, but when you're surrounded by not much, you're not going to be terribly successful. When you have a quarterback that has so many question marks, can he be successful in the league? Who's receiving? I can't even think of a single receiver for the Bears off the top of my head. right here anywhere in the next few rounds.
Yeah.
I'm not touching him right there in the third.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you, and it brings up a good point. And by the way, even with the Bears, whether it's Darnell Mooney or the rookie Vallis or whatever his name was, they don't have a lot of options there. When Byron Pringle is your wide receiver too, that's a problem. You know what I mean? So, but it comes up to a good point. What I want all you guys out there that's watching this video right now is going over the ADP, right? So these guys who want to go 0 RB, you're looking at people like David Montgomery and Cam Akers. You may not even have them as your RB1 because a no RB strategy, you're looking at drafting wide receiver or possibly even tight end for the first 4 to 5 rounds. So if we're already in the 3rd round and you're struggling over David Montgomery, that's why I don't know if 0 RB strategy is going to work this year. What is your thoughts on a 0 RB type of strategy for a draft?
0 RB is highly, highly risky, and anybody in the industry, anybody who's played fantasy football knows that. If you're new to it, welcome, and it's fantastic. It's the best, worst thing that's ever happened to me. You're looking at, you're comparing a player like Keenan Allen and David Montgomery there in the 3rd. You've got other receivers coming up. Yeah, you've got George Kittle coming up in the 4th here shortly. Travis Etienne. I would so much rather have Travis Etienne on my team.
Yes.
Montgomery.
And he hasn't even played it down on the NFL yet.
I know. I would so much. J.K. Dobbins, he is so underrated. I can't wait to talk about round 4 apparently. First few rounds you've got to hit. If you're going 0 RB, coming out in the 3rd round with Mike Evans as opposed to David Montgomery, please and thank you. All day, every day, guaranteed performance, and that's what you're looking for. Is that guaranteed, top solid end fantasy production? And I'm sorry, David Montgomery is too many question marks for me.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And we're gonna make our way down a little bit. There's a lot to talk about in this 3rd round. I know we're even excited to get in the 4th round. This is what fantasy football is about: being excited, talking about who you like, who you don't like. Look at where the ADP guys, girls, everybody out there, ADP changes daily. You've got to keep up on this, or by the time when you're drafted, you're going to be behind. So Justin Herbert, we really don't need to talk about him too much. He's a great quarterback. Would I take him in the 3rd round? That's too early for quarterbacks for me. But if you grab on your team, you've got a solid quarterback. Not much to say. But these next 2 guys I really want to talk about. Let's start with Cam Akers. Cam Akers coming out before he got injured. He was a new thing. Everybody wanted him. Cam Akers, he could be a 1st round pick. Then he ended up getting injured. Now he's coming back. Now he's in the 3rd round. Cam Akers is somebody, he played for the best team in football. He has not much competition behind him. Darrell Henderson is a serviceable running back, but not somebody who's going to take over for Cam Akers. He came back last year in the playoffs, not the fantasy playoffs, but the actual real NFL playoffs, and he didn't really do anything. So it just scares me off when someone's taking Cam Akers in the 3rd round and he hasn't proven anything yet. Can he be good? Yeah, absolutely. But in the 3rd round, I need to have to see something. Where is your stance on Cam Akers?
And I'm going to keep this short. I just said guaranteed production out of these first top rounds. And that's a big question. Yes, best team in football. Love the Rams this year. Love their chance to go back and win it all again. But does that mean that Cam Akers is going to have fantasy production because of that? No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. It could rest on Matthew Stafford again. That passing game is going to be amazing. Get pieces of that. But the running game, maybe not.
Yeah. And then the last in this tier list, we're going over Kyle Pitts. Now, Kyle Pitts is a athletic freak. This dude could do anything. He can catch the ball. He's fast. He's physical. He doesn't have the offense around him to sometimes when I just think about Kyle Pitts in an offense like the Rams or the Saints or the Bucks or somebody, put him in there with Dak Prescott, put him in there with people
somebody
who can utilize. Yes. I mean, but he's just not there, and he's going to the 3rd round. I had Kyle Pitts on my team last year, and I was disappointed almost every single week. Now he's going from Matt Ryan to Marcus Mariota, possibly even the rookie and Ritter, which I actually kind of like. But I have no faith in Kyle Pitts right now. Can you talk any sense into me right now why I should be taking him in the 3rd round?
No.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the fourth round now that we, because I don't know. Okay.
No, I'm sorry. No, I'm not taking Pitts over anybody in the fourth round.
No.
Period.
No. I mean, let me go ahead and throw up on the board on the screen for you guys so y'all can see who's in the fourth round and y'all can go through it with me. We've got J.K. Dobbins at the top of the fourth round, followed by Travis Etienne, Terry McLaurin, Patrick Mahomes, DJ Moore, DK Metcalf, George Kittle, Antonio Gibson, Elijah Mitchell, Deontay Johnson, Josh Jacobs, and Breece Hall. Now, the very first person on this list, I can already tell you now, we're going to have a huge disagreement with, but I want you to make your case for J.K. Dobbins before I attempt to tear it completely down. Go ahead.
Okay. J.K. Dobbins, man. The Ravens could fight for the number one overall rushing offense in the NFL this season again. Right. Yes, that starts with the quarterback. Yes, you've got a tight end that's absolutely delicious and one of the best athletes out there in Darren Waller. But J.K. Dobbins is coming off an injury himself. People forget how productive he was,
and people forget what the name of the Ravens tight end is, because it isn't Darren Waller.
Wow, I said Darren Waller, didn't I?
Yeah.
Mark Andrews, obviously. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
But he's got, Gus Edwards behind him, the Gus bus, as they call him. He could actually be a very late round kind of a grab that could provide some fantasy value. But what you want with your running backs is high running back or high rushing production on a good team, and the Ravens definitely give you that. Finding him at the top of the fourth round at the 401, I'd take him for sure.
Okay, I like it all. J.K. Dobbins is on the field. He's electric. The guy, he's a great runner. He could produce at a very, very high level. My problem with him is his injury history. He's probably not going to be there for week one. He's probably going to start the season on the PUP list. He's came out and said that he's going to be ready for week one, but that's just not the case. All the coaches are sitting there saying that we're not guaranteed anything for week one. He actually came out yesterday and the head coach said, in quotes, "We'll see if he'll be there for week one." I just don't see it. He tore MCL, LCL, he tore everything in his knee. It wasn't a simple thing. So Gus Edwards will start on the PUP. He's already guaranteed on the PUP. He'll probably miss even more than that. He probably won't be back to about week 10 or so. Then J.K. Dobbins, if he's not starting the season, I mean, they don't have a lot there. I mean, I think, like you said, yes, the rushing starts with Lamar Jackson, but I also think it ends with Lamar Jackson. It's just somebody, to me, in the fourth round, I'm not willing to take the risk, especially if you're not going to have him for the first few weeks of the season. But if he can come back by week 2, week 3, or even possibility, depending on when you're drafting, if he could be there week 1, yeah, you got to steal in the fourth round. Absolutely. If he could stay healthy. I'm just all about mitigating my risk, and I can't do it with J.K. Dobbins.
Sometimes you have to go out on those limbs and you have to shoot for those players that you want. And it also depends on where you are in the draft. Obviously, in this format, we have a 12-team draft here. This is full PPR, in case anybody was curious or forgot from the beginning, or we hadn't mentioned that before. But when we look at players at this level, yes, you're still looking for that guaranteed production, but sometimes you have to reach for your players. Sometimes you just have to put a check mark. That's my guy. And unfortunately for others, maybe for myself in my own personal drafts this season, but he's one that you could see fall in fantasy drafts. Gus Edwards could work his way up. It could kind of meet towards there in the middle of the drafts, but I think he could have an excellent season for sure. Oh yeah, absolutely. If he stays healthy, he's rock solid. And I know the next guy we're going to talk about, me and you are high on. I think the rest of the NFL league and everyone who's playing fantasy football is high on Travis Etienne, but I did hear something today that got me pumping my brakes a little bit on Travis Etienne. I thought he was the bona fide number one guy, going to be running the ball, no other running backs. He was going to be the sole man there. Now there's reports coming out of camp that James Robinson should be ready for week 1, or a strong possibility to start for week 1. And rumor, all the beat reporters coming out
is actually saying that James Robinson will be the number one starter and the guy running the ball, and Travis Etienne is going to be more of a change of pace guy. Again, you're listening to beat reporters in the offseason, this and that. Who knows if he's even healthy, but James Robinson has showed us in the past he can be the number one running back for this team and be quite productive for this team. So it does scare me a little bit. If you're drafting right now, it would definitely worry me to draft Travis Etienne. Now, I think he could be electric, but we haven't seen him on the field yet, and James Robinson has. So if they're both going to be out there at week 1, I think James Robinson's probably going to get the first nod at the starting running back position. But just try to draft as late as you can so that we can get more information. Where are you at on Travis Etienne?
Tell you what, man, I'm just now hearing that information myself, and I'm vetting it, and I see it right here. Coach Doug Peterson said Thursday, just 2 days ago, we're recording this on the Saturday after, that Robinson will be ready for week 1. So that is absolutely scary news for Etienne's production. Very sad, frankly, because I was excited about him. So my heart's broken a little bit. Let's go on and so I can lick these wounds.
I just heard about it today, but we're going through there. We're talking about, Terry McLaurin. I think he's got Carson Wentz. He's going to be fine. He's going to be a serviceable wide receiver. Even the rookie Jahan Dotson out there, I think he'll be serviceable as well. Will any of these guys be prolific or a wide receiver 1 for you? I don't think so. I think Terry McLaurin is a very good wide receiver. He's just in the situation to where he's not going to be a top tier wide receiver. He's definitely down a couple tiers. And the same thing with DJ Moore. DJ Moore is a 1,000-yard receiver year in and year out, even with the crappy quarterback play. Now, I'm going to say this. He's got a quarterback upgrade this year in Baker Mayfield. As of the recording right now, they haven't announced the starting quarterback for Carolina, but we all know it's Baker Mayfield. I think he's still going to put up his 1,000 yards receiving. I think he's a safe bet. I don't know. I don't know. I just think he's a safe bet, man.
Out of any of the other receivers on this board in the 4th round, I would take DJ Moore handover in.
Oh yeah.
McLaurin, Metcalf. Oh my God, Metcalf. Such a sad story there, losing Wilson. But I want to talk about Patrick Mahomes for a second. Patrick Mahomes is probably the best quarterback skill-wise in the NFL. Andy Reid's going to have an amazing team regardless of them losing Tyreek Hill and the production that he brought to that team. But there are question marks on that team when it comes to fantasy production. Okay, Patrick Mahomes has not had a stellar fantasy season since his 50 touchdown season a few years ago. And now you lose Tyreek Hill. They replace. Okay, cool.
They got Marquez Valdez Scantling. They got Juju Smith-Schuster. They drafted the rookie Sky Moore. All that.
Awesome. That's all fine and dandy and everything. But again, guaranteed production. Just trying to drive that home here in these early rounds. Is Patrick Mahomes guaranteed quarterback production anymore? I say no. I say not this year. Let them draft somebody, let them get somebody in the offseason, that can come in and fill Tyreek Hill's shoes. Still got Kelsey, he's going to get his, but I would not take him here in the 4th round.
Oh, no. Again, way too early for my liking. All these quarterbacks, I think they're good fantasy quarterbacks, but I'm just not going to have any of that. But as we kind of work our way down a little bit, the guy I really want to dive into, which is just a sad story, is Antonio Gibson. This guy has almost all but lost his job. I don't think he's going to be on the field much at all. It just came a couple days ago. It was announced that Antonio Gibson was playing special teams. Okay, so Brian Robinson Jr. looks like he's the rookie out of Alabama. He hasn't fumbled once in his career. We're talking high school. We're talking middle school. We're talking all of that. College. Not one fumble. What's the biggest problem with Antonio Gibson? He fumbles. The last preseason game, what did he do in the first quarter? He fumbled. He sat out for the rest of the game. Brian Robinson Jr. came in and lit it up. Did amazing. So it's one of those things that Brian Robinson Jr. is now taking a lot of the first team reps. They're putting Antonio Gibson on special teams. It's not looking good for the home team. I expect his ADP to fall. I don't expect him to be where he is today. Now, is he just in the doghouse, and is he going to come out and start week 1? It's yet to be seen, but Antonio Gibson, I'm taking him off my radar.
gracious. I'm looking as you're speaking to how much this guy has fallen. FantasyPros.com has him falling 4 total spots in the past week. I thought it was going to be more than that. I think there's a lead weight in his shorts. He's fallen to the bottom of the sea as far as his fantasy value and his fantasy position goes. If you're drafting today and you have to make that decision, I am so sorry. I mean, you're right here. You're looking at Elijah Mitchell. Oh my God! Please take Elijah Mitchell over Antonio Gibson. Josh Jacobs? Question mark? Sure, take him. Breece Hall? Absolutely. I'm flipping through every single one of these over the next few rounds. I would take over.
And even like you're going over, I would actually take Josh Jacobs, to be honest with you, over Gibson, Mitchell, and Breece Hall. And just to kind of elaborate on that a little bit, Antonio Gibson's losing his job to Brian Robinson Jr. Elijah Mitchell plays for an offense that the running back position gets hurt all the time. Elijah Mitchell himself was hurt probably half the season last season. Is he a good running back? Absolutely. But they drafted another running back in the draft in the 3rd round for a reason. I think it was Tyrion Davis-Price is who they drafted out of LSU to take over some of this role. Elijah Mitchell isn't going to have that for long, especially with Trey Lance now being the quarterback. He's a sophomore season. They may run the ball quite a bit. He's going to get hurt. I mean, it is what it is. Call a spade a spade. And then you got Breece Hall. Yeah, amazing running back profile. But now with Wilson probably going down at quarterback and Joe Flacco now being the quarterback, you look at the schedule for the Jets, it is brutal, and it starts out with the Ravens in week 1, who had one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL last season. Breece Hall, for the first 8 weeks of the season, is going to be in a lot of pain show. I'm okay. I think I'm going to take a pass on all these guys. I don't want Gibson. I don't want Mitchell. I don't want Breece Hall. I would take Josh Jacobs over that, and especially some of the guys in the next round. Both of the guys actually we're going to talk about in the next round. I would actually take over all these guys except for Josh Jacobs. So any thoughts on that?
Nope, I absolutely agree. Deontay Johnson, the receiver there between those running backs, more, maybe not red flags, but caution flags there. Quarterback situation, are they going to be, viable in a hugely competitive division there? I'm not sure if I would like him there in the 4th round. Maybe okay, but we'll see as far as that goes. I'm a little bit down on Deontay right now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. I just don't think they have the quarterback play available for Deontay Johnson to give you what we're all used to him having. Like I said, whether it's going to be Trubisky or the rookie coming out, Kenny Pickett, I just don't think they have what it has. Even though I like what I have seen from Kenny Pickett, he's lit it up in the preseason so far. I would just be a little bit cautious, especially with them drafting George Pickens out of Georgia, and they also have Chase Claypool on the outside, not including Pat Freiermuth at tight end. So let's go ahead and move on to the 5th round. I'll go ahead and throw it up for you guys so you can see it and follow along with us. We have Mike Williams coming in on the first spot of the 5th round, followed with Jaylen Waddle, Darren Waller, Michael Thomas, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, DeAndre Hopkins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, A.J. Dillon, Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, and Allen Robinson. Now, this starts off really, really spicy for me in the 5th round. There's a lot of guys that I want, if not only almost everybody in this draft or in this round. It starts out with Mike Williams. He is the touchdown guy. He produced a lot better starting this past season. He was more involved in the offense. When they're in the red zone, they're looking for Mike Williams. Yes, Keenan Allen is the number 1 wide receiver on this team. He is the possession guy. When they need a catch, they're going to Keenan Allen. But Mike Williams, it wouldn't shock me if he got you 150 yards and 2 touchdowns in a game. You got Herbert throwing the ball. Anything is possible with Mike Williams. Are you liking Mike Williams this season?
I am liking Mike Williams. He's going to have his production. Obviously, the biggest question mark with him is health and injury status. He's one of those guys. He's a big fella, huge dude. He's going to go up for the ball. He's aggressive. He's a playmaker, and he knows that. But he puts the play ahead of his body almost every single time. He's one of those players you're watching him live, and he falls, and you're like, please get up. Okay, he got up. And then he doesn't get up, and then he's just ruining your fantasy season here in the 5th round. But He's a huge boomer bust player, which is a excellent term because it describes his potential and his potential high end and his potential low end. Boomer bust there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then the next guy on the list, we're talking about Jaylen Waddle. Last year, he came onto the scene, linked up with Tua, was the main guy there. Now coming into town is Tyreek Hill. How much of a factor do you think Tyreek Hill is going to have on Jaylen Waddle this season?
Absolutely huge. We're talking about Tyreek Hill, one of the most prolific receivers in the NFL today, if not ever.
Yeah.
Question mark. But he's going to have that production. Tua still has question marks around him. Can he perform? We saw a little bit towards the end of last season. We saw him turning it on, and they were winning games. Miami, I think, could be a surprising team overall as far as production and function goes as an NFL team. But Jaylen Waddle, I'm not touching him. Sorry.
No, I'm right there with you. I think I would draft him, but probably in the 6th or 7th. I think he still has some value. I think Tyreek Hill is going to take a lot of attention off of Waddle, but I don't think you can expect the same type of production that he had last year this year. So, and then moving on, another guy coming to town. We're talking about Darren Waller. He was hurt last season. The season before that, he was hyper targeted. There was nobody else in this offense. They gave it all to Waller. That's why he was a top tier tight end. Now he's coming back from injury. Hey, it's all good. I'm going to be the guy, the main guy. All the targets are to come to me. Hold up. Wait a minute. It's a chopper. But it's Davante Adams coming to town. And I'm telling you right now, he's going to command a lot of attention and take a lot of it from Waller, which probably could decrease his production just a little bit. I don't think you're going to be able to expect those top tier, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce type of stuff. And I have seen him falling in the ADP. It's probably why he's going in the 5th round. Last year, his ADP was around in the 3rd round. So we are seeing a significant fall for Darren Waller because of Davante Adams. Do you think Davante Adams is going to have a big effect on Darren Waller?
Yeah. It's again one of the most prolific wide receivers in the NFL. He's going to have an effect on his production. However, could he still be a viable tight end? Absolutely. Could he still finish as the number 1 tight end overall? Absolutely. I think that the talent is there as long as the health stays. Yes, Davante Adams is there, but that's going to draw the defense more over to his side and leave Darren Waller open for those touchdowns and those huge, 15, 25-yard plays over the middle that he's so used to, and he's still got that rapport with Derek Carr already. I would absolutely take him here, especially over somebody like Jaylen Waddle.
Yeah.
And that brings up the point where I think that these middle rounds are going to make or break people's fantasy seasons.
Yeah.
Yes, those first rounds are super important. You want that guaranteed production, but when you're looking at something like this in the 5th round, Jaylen Waddle or Darren Waller, well, there's could be obviously the number 1 answer there is yes, Darren Waller would be the better choice. Is it going to be at the end of the season? We'll never know until that time comes, but you're going to have to make those choices, and please make them educated choices.
Yeah.
You're looking at Waller, somebody like Michael Thomas, that can absolutely just set the fantasy world on fire. Lamar Jackson, same thing, just absolutely potential stellar. Joe Burrow, please, again, tie yourself to these solid quarterbacks. I would take Joe Burrow 72 million times over Patrick Mahomes this year, and you can get him a full round later. Hopkins, yes, there's question marks, but he's going to come in at the end of the season. When you're looking at these players, again, you've got to plant your flags and say, this is my guy, but is it going to be good for you? We're not going to find out towards the end, but absolutely potential for those huge boomer bust players here.
Oh yeah, and just to pick out one of those guys that you had just went over, I want to go back over Michael Thomas just a little bit here. Michael Thomas, what the biggest fall from the grace of earth. He was a 1st round pick. He ends up not playing all of last season, drops to the 5th round. What is Michael Thomas? We don't know what Michael Thomas is right now. Can he be the guy that he was with Drew Brees? Probably not. Is he worth a 5th round value? I think that it could be too low. Is it too low? I don't know. They've added so much. They have Chris Olave. They had it as a rookie. They added Jarvis Landry. They've got Jameis Winston back at quarterback. We don't know what this offense is going to produce. He scares me to death because I don't want to draft him. And on the flip side, I don't want my teammates to draft him, because how far do you let him slip? If he's getting drafted in the 5th, maybe even 6th or 7th, based on you all's home team leagues, on where y'all take him, so late in the draft, if Michael Thomas returns value, becomes a top 12 tight end, geez, man, because Michael Thomas can put it on. The problem is will he do that again? I'm not sure. Where do you stand on Michael Thomas this season?
Tell you what, man, if I could come out of the draft with somebody like Michael Thomas in the 5th round, who has that potential, that huge boom potential. If I could come out of the draft in the 5th round with somebody like Michael Thomas, who has that potential for that huge boom season again, like he's had before, I think I would be absolutely ecstatic. It's tough to remember the last time that he was a viable fantasy option, but he has been, and he can do it again. Whereas somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, a few picks later, we know he's not going to be there for half the season. And the point there that we were talking about earlier, Troy, is yes, he's suspended for 6 games, but his bye week, the Cardinals' bye week, is there. I think 13. We said was in week 13. Yeah. So there's 7 weeks that you're going to be without a top end receiver, whereas you'll have Michael Thomas the whole time, potentially. But what production is that going to bring? Question marks. Can Jameis Winston pull it together? Question marks. But that boom right there, I think, is worth the risk this early in the draft.
Yeah, the boom is definitely there, like you said, but I know me and you, we have played in fantasy football leagues together for a very long time now, and I'm just looking at some of these guys, and like Brandon Cooks is somebody that I would want to take over Waddle, Thomas, Hopkins, and Godwin. Brandon Cooks is somebody that plays for the Houston Texans, just signed another contract. He does nothing except for catch 1,000-yard seasons. Doesn't matter if he has Davis Mills throwing on the football, he's going to produce. So it's just, I like safety, and with DeAndre Hopkins missing it, I would rather DeAndre Hopkins more in the 7th or 8th round. Michael Thomas, probably the 6th or 7th round. I'm not as high as the 5th round, but maybe a couple rounds lower, I would feel much more safer. I just want somebody, if you're taking a Michael Thomas and you're betting on somebody that's coming back from a year injury, and they added 2 prolific wide receivers in Jarvis Landry and Chris Olave, or you can have somebody like Brandon Cooks, who is the number one, no question to ask, and he's giving you 1,000 yards receiving. And with the Brandon Cooks, I can't talk myself into drafting Michael Thomas or a guy that's going to miss 7 games out of your season over somebody like Brandon Cooks. That's just kind of where I stand.
Points, man. I mean, if this is your first year in fantasy football, if this is your 17th year, it doesn't matter. If you don't know who Brandon Cooks is, if you're scared because it's the Texans and, there's all this controversy and, it's Davis Mills, who is that? Nobody knows, blah, 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 throwing him the ball. Davis Mills threw him the ball last year, and Brandon Cooks had an excellent season. He has excellent seasons. He always has, and he will continue to do that. Chris Godwin, question marks health-wise. Allen Robinson, get out of here, question marks whether he's going to produce. If you're going to come out of this 5th round with somebody like Brandon Cooks, please look that way. I think that is a huge value pick right there.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. The analysis is getting strong here. Let me go ahead and throw up the 6th round for you guys so you guys can follow along with me. Coming in at the very beginning, we have Damian Harris, followed by Cortland Sutton, Kyler Murray, Miles Sanders, Jerry Jeudy, Adam Thielen, Jalen Hurts, I'll read it one more time, Jalen Hurts, TJ Hawkinson, Dalton Schultz, Hunter Renfrow, Rashad Penny, and Tony Pollard. And if you wasn't seeing the 7th person on this list, it was Jalen Hurts. Anybody stick out to you, Jalen Hurts, on this list, Tyler?
I wish I could think of somebody like a good quarterback that could really break out into that top 5, but I'm actually going to start with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy here. 3 picks away here in the 6th round, now tied to Russell Wilson. We touched on this earlier, but again, you've got to plant your flag on your person. Cortland Sutton has shown that he can be that number 1 guy. He's had There's some catches. Go look at a catch reel of Cortland Sutton. Some of the picks he's made in the past. Oh my God, he's a beast. Can he stay healthy? Not sure. Jerry Jeudy, he's had flashes. Not a good quarterback, but he's one of those prospects that came out that was supposed to do really well. And then you've got to understand, if not sure who all's listening or watching, but how much your knowledge here is. KJ Hamler is hurt, who's supposed to be their number 3, and Tim Patrick is on the IR. He is out with a season-ending injury.
Yeah.
So it's going to be one of these two guys, and it could be both of these guys.
It could be. I've seen Jerry Jeudy go ahead of Sutton quite a bit in drafts too.
Yeah, absolutely. And the question mark is health there with Sutton over Jeudy. Can Jeudy do it and step up though? But again, tie your receivers to those good quarterbacks. I think you can't go wrong with either, but it's up to you guys. I'm not sure who I would pick if that was if that was a choice with me here in the 6th, but two solid picks right there at receiver. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, starting even at the top with Damian Harris, I'm not sure what's going in. They like Ramondre Stevenson. There's a good chance Damian Harris won't be with this football team. And Stevenson could take a lot of carries away from him. We're going over these quarterbacks. Kyler Murray in the 6th round. Starting in the 6th round, I would actually say, hey, it's okay. Go ahead and grab your quarterback. If there's somebody you really love, 6th round, I'm fine with Kyler Murray here. It'd be great. I like more. If I'm going waiting for my quarterback, 7th round is really where I kind of want to go. I like to get 6 solid players first, but I'm not mad at anybody who likes to take a 6th round quarterback, because sometimes you never know. Somebody could fall down. If you have either Burrow or Lamar Jackson drop to the 6th round, go jump on that guy. I'm telling you, that value is right there. And then we drop it down to Miles Sanders. Now, Miles Sanders, I actually don't like Miles Sanders this year, mostly because of Jalen Hurts. Same reason why I don't like J.K. Dobbins when he has Lamar Jackson. I think Jalen Hurts, he's going to run for 1,000 yards rushing. I've already called it. I think he's going to have a great season, probably the MVP type season in 2019 when Lamar Jackson was throwing for over 3,500 yards and 1,000 yards rushing. I think there was only, if I'm not mistaken, 2 to 3 quarterbacks who's ever done that in the history, and I think Jalen Hurts is going to be the next to do that. But I don't like Miles Sanders this season. I just don't think he's got what it takes to be a bona fide stud for your fantasy team. I kind of like Rashad Penny a little bit better than that, a little bit later in this round. I even like Tony Pollard over Miles Sanders just based off his opportunity. Where are you sitting with Miles Sanders?
I'm sorry, I'm hugely distracted here. I think that I might have some type of audio malfunction. I think you said that Jalen Hurts is going to have 1,000-yard rushing season.
Yeah, no audio discover. I think you heard it very, very clear. I think that everybody in the audience heard it very clear. Jalen Hurts, I'm saying it right now, I think he'll have 1,000 yards rushing.
Jalen Hurts may struggle having 1,000 yards passing. No, I'm kidding, but 1,000 yards rushing, man, that is huge, man. That is a massive fantasy production from your quarterback. However, I made the point earlier in the video that the Eagles are rated with the number 1 offensive line in the NFL. If you want a running game going, if you want a running quarterback, if you want potential running back production out of Miles Sanders, having that number 1 offensive line is absolutely key. We saw that with the Cowboys a few years ago with Zeke having his stellar season, a couple seasons, and we've seen the fall off from that with the Cowboys offensive line as it's degraded over the past few years. But man, 1,000 yards, that's
okay.
That's
off the top of your head, have you seen how many rushing yards he had last year?
No.
How many would you guess off the top of your head right now? I know I'm putting you on the spot, but if you had to give me a number of how many rushing yards Hurts had last season, don't look it up. How many rushing yards do you think he had last season?
And check, I'm putting it at 450.
He had almost 800. He had 784 yards rushing last season.
I'm gonna go vet that right now.
You can vet that all you want. I'm going to keep on continuing down, but Jalen Hurts, he's the man. He's my go-to guy. Guys, grab him if he's in the 6th round. I'm telling you, I think he's going to throw for 3,500 yards passing and 1,000 yards rushing, which is going to put him as a top 3 quarterback. Guaranteed. Put the Bengal Tiger stamp on it. So let's go ahead and make our way down here a little bit. Did you vet it? Did you vet that for me?
Still betting.
Okay, still vet that. Good. We're going to go over to TJ Hawkinson and Dalton Schultz, the next two tight ends on the list. I'm not too crazy about either one of these guys. TJ Hawkinson, he's a great tight end. He's playing for the Lions. He can have your good games. He can have some not some good games. Somebody I'm not necessarily targeting, as well as Dalton Schultz. I think he had a great season last season for the Cowboys. I think he's a good tight end. Just somebody I'm not really... I see you shaking your head over. Did you vet it?
139 attempts for 784.
Take that, bro.
Take 10 rushing touchdowns.
Take that, bro. You want to change any thoughts?
I'm gonna look for Jalen Hurts in a draft.
Bro, you better look for Jalen Hurts. I'm telling you, man, he's solid, man. But the next guy I want to get your thoughts on is somebody, especially in the 6th round, Hunter Renfrow. What is your thoughts on Hunter Renfrow? Because with Devontae Adams coming to town, there's no way Hunter Renfrow. I know he cashed in. He got a new contract with the Raiders, but I just don't think Hunter Renfrow is going to produce even close to what he was with Devontae Adams in town.
A lot of times when you get fantasy feedback from your experts are going to tell you to follow the money. For example, follow the money, follow the contracts. Who did the team pay? Who did they flower with all of the money from the team? Who do they love? And usually the money follows that. It's not always the case. In this situation, I think they paid to keep him on the team, number one, because he is that amazing backup. He did amazingly for fantasy players at the end of the season last year with all the injuries there with Darren Waller and so forth. But there's just too many mouths to feed with subpar quarterback play there in Vegas, and 6'10" is too rich for me.
Yeah, a little bit too rich for me. I actually don't want any pieces of Hunter Renfrow. I think there's way too many question marks there. And yes, he did have a nice season last year, but it wasn't bona fide, and it definitely wasn't 6th round worthy for me. There's a whole crew of people that we're going to talk about here shortly in the 7th round that I would definitely take over Hunter Renfrow. Not saying he's a bad wide receiver. I'm just thinking 6 rounds a little bit too rich for my blood, And then we're going to drop down to the last two guys real quick. Rashad Penny, very highly injury risk. They drafted Kenneth Walker III. I think ultimately he changed his name from Kenneth. Now in camp, he said he wants to be called Ken. So Ken Walker, I think he's going to take over Rashad Penny's job. And then Tony Pollard, I think he's going to eventually take over Ezekiel Elliott's job. I just don't think it's going to be this year. I think it might be more of next year where Tony Pollard is kind of coming into more of the number one role. I think Tony Pollard is viable for fantasy this season. I think he is somebody that if Ezekiel Elliott gets hurt, he could be a top 5 running back. I think the talent is there for Pollard to produce. All it takes is one injury away, and you could have a top 5 tight end or top 5 running back in the 6th round. What you think about? I know you're a Cowboys fan. Tell me what you think about Tony Pollard.
Cowboys fan, but I'm also a realist when it comes to that. I understand that the Cowboys suck more so than usual, and you generally you can't count on Cowboys to pull through for your fantasy team.
Yeah.
Zeke has been questionable. Dak has been questionable. Dalton Schultz right there at 609. Is he going to take that step forward? The Cowboys threw some money at him to keep him in town. They think that he's a huge piece of that offense and he can continue. Is he going to give you that 6th round production as far as that fantasy value goes? Same thing with him and Hunter Renfrow. Huge question marks, I think, as far as this position in the draft, a little too rich for my blood. I would rather have, your Darren Waller. I'd take Dallas Goedert coming up in the next round over Dalton Schultz as far as that goes. But you talk about Rashad Penny. Yes, his job is on the line, but Tony Pollard, I think that he's this high in this draft as far as the ADP goes here because it's a PPR league. He's that scat back. He's a smaller size running back where Zeke comes in and brings the power and those, picks up those 3-4 yards on first down. But can he bring in those extra PPR catches? Possibly. He could return that value here in the 6th. If it's a non-PPR, even a half PPR, I definitely wouldn't take him here. Full PPR, I'm not mad at it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right there with you. So that takes away 6 rounds of what we're going through. We have 4 rounds to go. Before we continue on with the 7th round, I want to thank our sponsor today for this video, which is nobody, because I don't have enough subscribers. Do yourself a favor, hit the subscribe button. We're halfway through here. We're giving you a lot of information. It really helped the channel out. Let me go ahead and throw up all the rest of the 7th round so we can go over it together. We got Kareem Hunt, Darnell Mooney, Marquise Brown, Gabriel Davis, Devin Singletary, Amari Cooper, Chase Edmonds, Russell Wilson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Aaron Rodgers, Dallas Goedert, and Ken Walker III. Now, kind of going over what's going on. Yes, we have a question in the class. Yes, Tyler?
Can I go first?
Go first, by all means. What you got?
This 7th round is absolutely beautiful. Kareem Hunt right here, 701. Please look at him in all of your fantasy drafts. You want to talk? You made the point just a minute ago with Tony Pollard. He's an injury away from amazing fantasy production. Kareem Hunt is as well, and we've seen that Kareem Hunt can have that fantasy production even with Nick Chubb still on the field. So absolutely love him. Devin Singletary, I think, is cut out for another potential, top 24 running back finish. I think that's in his realm. I don't think a top 10 or even maybe top 15 if he has a stellar year. Chase Edmonds, again, question mark, but Ken Walker there, you mentioned before, he could have that job come back. But all of these receivers in this round, in these middle rounds, is exactly why I was talking about before, where you want to cash in on those running backs early, questioning whether you want to take one of those quarterbacks early, and even at the tight end level, it's getting dried up. If you don't have one of those top tight ends, you could be losing out. You're going to be cycling through at the end of the season. But here in these 5, 6, 7, 8, I mean, there's a ton of receiver names that could bring you amazing fantasy value. Hollywood Brown, absolutely potential. Gabe Davis, you don't know that name, right there at the top of the 7th round, up there in Buffalo. Please look this name up. He is going to be amazing, I think, this year. Amari Cooper, question marks there, but Amon-Ra St. Brown, he showed last year that he can really, really turn it on for his team, even on a crappy Lions team. Again, they're supposed to be better. They've got some pieces there. Running game, I think, is going to be top-notch with a top offensive line. I want you guys to look at these receivers in these middle rounds and plan your draft accordingly when you can get guys like this here.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to Kareem Hunt for just 1 second. There's no analysis right here. I'm just shooting at the hip right now. Kareem Hunt requested a trade. The team denied that trade request. Do you think there's any animosity there amongst the team which is going to hurt any of his production? Will they say, hey, look, instead of 10 carries or 12 carries a game, let's give him 5? Do you think any of that might be on the table for Kareem Hunt just because he requested a trade?
Kareem Hunt is trying to get his next contract. He's coming up on the end of this contract. He's got that questionable history where he was the amazing stud for the Chiefs, and then it all came crashing down, and now he's on the Browns, boohoo. But he's shown that he is a top-tier running back, a top talent in this league. He wanted to be, I think that he wants to be on a different team so that he can showcase his skills better to get that better contract going forward. But since he can't and since he won't, every touch that he's going to get, I think, is going to be absolutely stellar. He's going to put every ounce of energy he has in those carries. Where when you look at somebody like Zeke Elliott, for example, over the last couple years, Zeke's got guaranteed money. He knows whether he picks up that extra yard or not, he's getting that paycheck. That's in question for Kareem Hunt. So when you start dangling those dollar bills out in front of players like that, they're going to fight for their position, and they're going to fight for those extra contracts. And especially at the running back position, where older running backs fall off a lot a lot earlier in their careers. He needs that big production, and I think you can get it from him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somebody else I want to bring up too is Devin Singletary. Now, some people may not realize this if you guys don't follow football a lot in the offseason, but the Buffalo Bills was actually, they offered a tender to JD McKissic to come over and play for the Buffalo Bills because they wanted a third down scat back to play. They didn't want Devin Singletary in that role. The Commanders ended up matching that offer, so JD McKissic is now back with the Commanders, and it left a hole in the offense of what the Bills wanted to do. So what did they do? They went and they drafted the running back out of Florida, the running back out of Georgia, James Cook, to play that role. So whatever Devin Singletary had last year, which wasn't prolific by any means, he had maybe one or two really good fantasy games for your team, it's going to be even less. I see James Cook even splitting time care. I think both of Devin Singletary and James Cook are going to be clashing the entire season, and it's just not going to produce. Having a 7th round grabbing Devin Singletary, I would much rather have the bona fide number 1 running back in Chase Edmonds over Devin Singletary. I'd rather have Ken Walker III over Devin Singletary because I believe Ken Walker will be taking that job sooner rather than later. And it's just, even in the next round, Melvin Gordon, I think I'd rather Melvin Gordon over Devin Singletary. It really scares me to think about what Devin Singletary possibly can or not even cannot do in this Buffalo Bills offense. So.
And you make excellent points there, and something I want to point out is the fact that with you making that commentary, paying attention in the off season, I honestly haven't paid as much attention as you have. You've done some amazing time and effort into research and looking at all these teams. Now that you've said that, my position from 4 minutes ago is absolutely different now than it was. I think you're absolutely correct. You flip over at 8-12, and there's James Cook sitting right there. When you split receivers in these middle rounds with potential production, yet receivers are usually more viable in your PPR, especially if you have a flex position. You want to plug in those receivers more often than not, because your later round receivers score more points than your later round running backs do. But right here, absolutely, my goodness, I am just reeling with this.
And to play off of what you just said, that's the whole reason why you guys watch this channel, right? I do all the work so that way you don't have to. If you guys want to dominate your league, if you want to be prepared for your draft, if you want to make sure you are picking the best players possible, and ultimately week in and week out set the best lineup possible, come check out these videos that we're pumping out every single week. Like I said, I'm doing the work for you. All you have to do is watch the video and apply these changes. Do you have to do everything that I tell you to do? No, but use the information that I give you and make the best choice possible. That way, you never know, I might spit out something that you wasn't aware of or that you missed this piece of news. I'm just here to help you guys. This is what this channel is all about. Now we're gonna go ahead and switch over to the 8th round. Let me go ahead and throw that up. Hold on.
1 point. Hold on.
We got somebody come. Yep. We got somebody coming in right now. Over to you, Tyler.
1 point before you go. 7th round quarterbacks, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers. Again, you're looking for those quarterbacks that can break that top 5. Both of these can, and they're right here sitting in the 7th round. Are you kidding me? You're going to go back to the 3rd round at Justin Herbert, the 2nd round with Josh Allen. This is why I was so skeptical about those early quarterback picks, is you can get amazing talent with that potential top 5 finish. Russell Wilson, maybe not in the past few years, but he's on a different team. He's got amazing weapons around him, and they're going to ask him to actually throw instead of a run first option there in Seattle, as we've seen over the years. But please look at these later round quarterbacks. That's why any of your professionals, any of your solid feedback says wait on quarterback. This is why right here.
Yeah, and if you think Russell Wilson and Rodgers is juicy in the 7th, let me go ahead and pop up the 8th round for you, and we're going to go over 3 quarterbacks that I would much rather have than a lot of these guys. We're going to start it out with Matthew Stafford, Juju Smith-Schuster, James Robinson, Ramondre Stevenson, Devonta Smith, Melvin Gordon, Rashad Bateman, Dak Prescott, Elijah Moore, Dawson Knox, Tom Brady, and James Cook. Now, we're going to start this off by Matthew Stafford. I think he plays for the best team in football. He's got some weapons. Allen Robinson. He's got Cooper Kupp on the outside. He's got everything he can be. Is he the quarterback like a Herbert or Mahomes? No. Does he put up kind of like those numbers? Yes, and you can get him in the 8th round. And then you look at Dak Prescott later on. The dude could throw 400 yards any given game. You look at Tom Brady. Do I have to say any more than Tom Brady? The dude's the freaking GOAT. I'm tired of saying, oh, he's 40, he's 50, he's 60 years old, he's going to fall off. I'm done saying that now. He's Tom freaking Brady. Whatever. Until he retires, he's a great quarterback. What's your thoughts on this 8th round?
Absolutely, man. This I didn't even flip over from the previous 7th round page to the 8th yet and see these quarterbacks. Please give me one of these with those other huge values in those early rounds. And Buzz out of camp at the Cowboys in Dallas is saying that Dak is going to open up that running game. The first 3 seasons in his career, he gave us 6 rushing touchdowns each season. Didn't happen this last year, coming off of that ankle injury, that horrific ankle injury. Obviously, he should have been limited last year, but they're really talking about opening that up. You give him some more rushing production with that base of 4 to maybe, pushing double-digit rushing touchdowns if they really want to push his envelope. Absolutely top-tier quarterback play potential right there.
Yeah. I mean, so let's just work our way through a little bit of these guys here, because I think some of these guys are actually pretty interesting for the 8th round. Juju Smith-Schuster, a lot of question marks around him. Can he be the guy? He was the secondary guy when Antonio Brown, when he was with the Steelers, he did great. Antonio Brown left, not so great. Now he comes over to the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill left. Yes, they do have Travis Kelce, but Juju Smith-Schuster and a lot is kind of considered as the wide receiver 1 there. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, probably going to be more of a slot speedy type of receiver. Can he flourish as the number 1 wide receiver? I'm too scared of Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm not really wanting to go there. And I'm going to let you kind of chime in on some of these guys. Let me walk through these real quick. But James Robinson, we just talked about James Robinson. He could be the number 1 running back. Keep your ears pierced. Don't keep them pierced. Keep them peeled. Because it could be James Robinson starting week 1. You can grab him in the 8th round. Solid. Okay. Ramondre Stevenson, we talked about that earlier. Damon Harris, he might not even have the job starting next year. They might start mixing Stevenson in a little bit more for the carries. You never know. You always want to stay away from Bill Belichick's running backs. That's always my motto. The next 2 guys I'll go over, and then I'll let you kind of have the floor here a bit. But Devontae Smith, I'm really liking Devontae Smith. I think I'd rather have Devontae Smith than A.J. Brown, just based on ADP. A.J. Brown, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was either 2nd or 3rd round, and Devontae Smith's in the 8th. I mean, if I'm going to have one of these receivers, I'd rather have Devontae Smith. He's still a good receiver. He was the number 1 for Hurts last year. They have a little bit of a rapport. And then Melvin Gordon, we actually touched on a little bit earlier with Javonte Williams. Now that Gordon is back with the Broncos, he's currently hurt right now at the time of this recording, but by week 1, he should be fine. He's going to have anywhere between 45 to 50% of the carries of this offense. He's a good running back to have if you want to take him as your flex spot. I think Melvin Gordon is a great flex player for your team. What's your thoughts?
Absolutely. And this is where you're looking at those running backs that you hopefully you have at least 2 starting running backs, so you're looking to fill those flex positions or take your RB3, RB4, depending on how your draft has gone. And Melvin Gordon would definitely be an amazing, bye-week fill-in potential. Javonte gets hurt, he's going to have amazing fantasy production, but an upgrade on a team at the quarterback, can't speak enough of it. Absolute excellent value right here. James Robinson, I was just trying to look to see if I could find how much his fantasy draft stock is rising off the news just a couple days ago that he's back. And then Stevenson. Patriots running backs have always been questionable to go after in the past. I don't think that's changed much this season because they've got 2 that are absolutely amazing, and I like Stevenson and his potential. But you look at somebody like James Cook, Stevenson, and Robinson, all question marks in this 8th round. Right. You want those guaranteed fantasy production players. Another questionable here is Dawson Knox. Looking at the 9th is Zach Ertz, and the 10th is Pat Freiermuth. I would much rather have those two. And I think him being here in the 8th, one spot above the greatest quarterback of all time in Tom Brady, I think is just a sign, a key point as to how shallow the tight end pool is. Especially this year, I think you really want to maybe look at one of those higher end tight end production players to really set yourself apart from other players in your league. But Dawson Knox, no, not here in the 8th. I would much rather have one of these other, dart throws here, but also potential production, excellent production in your quarterbacks and some of the a couple of the other receivers there.
Yeah. Dawson Knox, he was in his 3rd year last year. Dawson Knox, a lot of people, they kind of want to look at the numbers and say, oh, Dawson Knox had a really good fantasy season. He was a top fantasy tight end. But we have to break it down a little bit more. Why was he a good fantasy tight end? Was he getting the receptions? No, not really. Was he getting the yards? No, not really. He had under 600 yards. The first year in the league, as his rookie year, he had 2 touchdowns. The second year in the league, he had 3 touchdowns. Last year, he had 9 touchdowns. He's not going to have 9 touchdowns again. Now they have the growth of Gabriel Davis there. Dawson Knox, that's where I'm at with Dawson Knox right now. Stay away from Dawson Knox. I nix him off my list. Not going to happen. But we're going to play a little game here. Something that I think is going to be very, very valuable for people that are listening to this right now. Would you say that Derek Carr, having Devontae Adams on his team, they played college football together? Do you think that rapport helps Derek Carr?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, it does. Melvin Gordon, where did he play college ball at? Do you know? Off the top of your head?
No.
He played at Wisconsin. Do you know who the quarterback for the Wisconsin Badgers were when Melvin Gordon was the running back?
I'm going to say Russell Wilson, but that's a total guess.
It was Russell Wilson.
Oh.
So not only, a lot of people may not understand this, one of the biggest reasons Melvin Gordon came back to play for the Broncos was because of the quarterback, Russell Wilson. So a point that I forgot to make earlier was, yes, Javonte Williams is there, but Russell Wilson's running back from college is Melvin Gordon, right? So if that doesn't scare you off of Javonte Williams, I don't know what does.
The top example of that in the NFL right now, I don't know. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Enough said.
Hello? And that's why people are high on Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne. There's a lot of college competition going on, right? I mean, there's a lot of fluidity there. All Joe Burrow needs is the other wide receiver to come and join his team that he had in LSU for that championship season. Do you know who the other wide receiver on the other side of Jamar Chase was? I'll tell you. It was Justin Jefferson.
Ooh.
Now you know why they won the championship. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, and Joe Burrow. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. But yeah, we're going to walk right through these guys real quick. We talked a little bit about Knox and the 2 quarterbacks is great. Elijah Moore, I think he's taking a step back now that they got the rookie Wilson in there. Rashad Bateman becomes the bona fide number 1 wide receiver for the Ravens. He's going to take over that number 1 role. He's going to have value. I don't think he's going to be as good as what Brown was there, but Marquise Brown was kind of that speedy guy. Rashad Bateman also has some speed on it, but not somebody I'm really excited to draft. And then James Cook, like we said earlier, I think he's a great rookie. I just think he's going to be splitting carries with Devin Singletary and not really going to be fantasy relevant for the most part in this season. Anything else you want to talk about in the 8th round, or you want to move over to the 9th?
Yeah, and right here at the end of the 8th round, just to throw out an extra point, you have some type of major bromance with Jalen Hurts, apparently. I don't know if that was obvious before, but when you have these potential key players like a Devontae Smith who has shown potential, and this is their 2nd year together, they have a full offseason together. When you look at these teams like the Eagles that have potential players that could give you potential production, where is that production going to end up? Where is that guaranteed production coming from? And that's where I think Troy's bromance with Jalen Hurts comes from. All of these other players may come together on the Eagles team and provide some stats individually Are they going to be amazing fantasy production? We don't know. Very questionable. But who's going to benefit from all of that is Jalen Hurts. So when you look at a team like the Eagles, and there's so many questions, go for those players that are going to benefit from all of those potential decent pieces, but nothing that really stands out as a star piece.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and throw up the 9th round for you. And I'll tell you guys, a lot of the 9th round is where you want to start finding your diamonds in the roughs. That means you should have 8 picks already. You should have 3 to 4 running backs, possibly 3 to 4 tight ends, maybe even a quarterback or a tight end at this point. Now you're kind of looking for those guys you can kind of fill in the gaps. So we're looking at Cordell Patterson coming in here, Brandon Ayuk. They have Alexander Madison, Zach Ertz, Alan Lazard, Damian Pierce, Robert Woods, Nyheim Hines, Trey Lance, Derek Carr, Michael Carter, and Darrell Henderson. Now, there's a lot of ups and downs, I think, in this draft board. I'm going to actually give you first crack at it. There's a couple pieces in here that, number one, I'm shocked that they're so low, and there's a couple pieces in here that I'm kind of shocked that they're so high. So I'm going to go ahead and pass the torch over to you. What is your first impressions of the 9th round board ADPs?
Couple points. First off, let's start with the wide receivers in this round. Brandon Ayuk, Alan Lazard, Robert Woods. Ayuk is one of those players for the 49ers who is on the brink of a potential breakout or a potential bust. Definitely boom or bust potential, but planting your flag there. I think Ayuk could have an excellent season. Alan Lazard right here at 905, he could be the number 1 receiver for Aaron Rodgers. Are you
kidding me? In the 9th round.
In the 9th round. I think people are way too low. Maybe they don't understand or know the name. Maybe they haven't watched. Those two have an amazing chemistry. Something like, I've seen them make plays that reminded me of Jordy Nelson back in the day. That there's just this mind meld between those two. And I think that's going to be very relevant this year. Is he going to be the number 1 receiver on the team, though? Nobody knows. They've come out and said, Rodgers has said he's his number 1. That's all fine and dandy, but Rodgers talks a lot. We know that in the past, but he's got huge potential here. And Robert Woods, yes, another questionable player. Can he have production on his new team? I am not sure. So with the receivers here in the 9th round, I would go with one of those two for sure. And then coming over to the running backs in this 9th round, Cordell Patterson, yes, crappy team. Yes, question marks. He's got some new challenges behind him as far as that position goes. But what you have to understand is look at last season as a huge outlier season. He's an older running back that came in and had very, very excellent fantasy production, but that never, ever, ever happens in fantasy football. In the history of the NFL. He's the only one to do it. I don't know the exact numbers in the stats, but look it up. He's the only one past a certain age, 32, I think, is the age to have a fantasy productive season like he did. Can he do it again? My answer is no. I think your answer should be no as well. Yeah. Alexander Madison, really, right here, that's way too high. Damian Pierce is an excellent question mark. Can he come in and produce for the Houston Texans? Can he take over that starting position? Maybe. So there's some potential there. And then the other two there at the bottom of the 9th, question marks. What are your viewpoints there with the running backs?
Yeah, the running backs. Alexander Madison, I don't even want to touch on this guy. Why is he in the 9th round? I don't know. I understand when Dalvin Cook goes down, Alexander Madison is a solid running back. Is he a barn burner like Tony Pollard could be if Zeke goes down? No. But Alexander Madison's serviceable. He's great, but he shouldn't be drafted this high, especially over people like Damian Pierce, who could take over the lead role from Marlon Mack. Nyheim Hines has a consistent pass-catching role on the side of Jonathan Taylor. Michael Carter, he did great last year without Breece Hall. Who knows? He might have a passing down opportunity. Darrell Henderson, he did okay too. He's still behind Cam Akers. Cordell Patterson, what's funny is in fantasy football leagues right now, I believe NFL.com and ESPN and Yahoo, I think he's still considered a running back, but the head coach said that he wants to move him to the wide receiver position. What is he going to play? Who knows? I think at the end of the day, he's going to be a jack of all trades. He's going to line up all over the field. He might even throw a couple passes, but the biggest guy I want to talk about here is Zach Ertz. I actually have Zach Ertz as a top 5 tight end this season, and let me tell you why. Zach Ertz right now played 6 games with the Eagles, came over to the Cardinals, and he started a little slow in the first 2 games. He only averaged around 3 catches or 3 targets a game. He started bumping that up to averaging around 10 targets a game towards the end of the season. He was building rapport. You stack up 10 targets a game with Zach Ertz, including the playoffs, or I think he had either 11 or 12. And then he's going into a season where DeAndre Hopkins is missing 6 games. Man, he's going to be in an opportunity where Zach Ertz, you might want to draft Zach Ertz, hold on to him, play him for the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season, and then trade him, right? Because when DeAndre Hopkins comes back, who knows what the value is going to be, but I have a high feeling that Zach Ertz possibly could be at his peak coming into week 7 when Hopkins comes back. Could be good trade fodder, or you might just want to keep him. He's still going to get you anywhere between 8 to 12 targets a game. That's solid for a fantasy tight end. Zach Ertz does have the pedigree to be a good tight end here over the last couple seasons with Dallas Goedert behind him here in the Eagles. He kind of fell off a little bit, but I want to get give me a quick overview of what you think about my take of Zach Ertz as a top 5 tight end this season.
It's a little spicy for my taste, to be honest with you, but I can absolutely see it happening. What people need to understand about the tight end position is that there are some superstars, and then there's the rest of the league. Can Zach Ertz go up into that superstar status? Sure, but when you look at past the top 3 tight ends, I think I want to do some numbers on that and potentially make a better point about this later on. But even that 4th or 5th tight end, when you look at the fantasy production that they're giving you compared to the potential number 1 receiver for Aaron Rodgers right there, a spot below him, I think is absolutely asinine. Yeah. But that production that even 4th or 5th tight end and the rest of the top 10 tight ends in the league, the numbers, the production that they actually give you, even in a PPR league, is much lower than your top or your 4 through 10 of your receiver position. Oh, yeah. So take tight end with a grain of salt. If you don't want to get one of those top 3, I think the rest of this is nitpicky, but absolute excellent value, I think, right here in the 9th for Zach Ertz. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the last guy I want to go over the 9th before we switch over to our very last section that we're going to be looking at here is Trey Lance. I think he's a little bit of a wild card here because he has the potential of being maybe a top 6 to top 8 quarterback because of his crazy rushing ability. This guy, oh man, he in his 2nd game ever starting, he either had 18 or 19 carries. 18 or 19. It was one of the 2 numbers. Ridiculous as a quarterback. Granted, he only threw for like 120 yards, but the dude had, I think it was either like 18 carries and maybe even 2 touchdowns with it. It was ridiculous. So it's just Trey Lance as a full-time starter. Grab him in the 9th round. If you really want to take a high risk, high reward type of quarterback, Trey Lance could be your guy. He could be electric for your team. And on the flip side, he's a sophomore quarterback that kind of struggled passing the ball a little bit last year at different points. So it could be either a make or break. What I would do is if I would take a Trey Lance, I definitely want to have a quarterback ahead of him, maybe like a Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, something like that I can kind of lean on. I wouldn't want to go into the season as Trey Lance as my number 1 guy. What's your thoughts before we switch over to the 10th round on Trey Lance in the 9th round?
Absolutely. I think that Trey Lance right here in the 9th is one of those guys that could get you, again, that potential top 5 finish. When you look at what the 49ers do, and how they play the game, they run the ball. They absolutely run the ball. And Troy just made the point that he struggled passing in the past. Don't you think the coaching staff knows that? Don't you think the coaching staff that loves to run the ball is going to put their best foot forward? So they're going to have, the Mitchell out on the end or right behind him in the I formation, and Trey Lance is going to take off the left side and run it all the way in. He's got that speed. He's got the legs. I think that he's got that top 5 potential here in the 9th round. But this is about it. This is, a couple more potential picks, I think, in Kirk Cousins and Tua to possibly fight for a top 10 finish, but Derek Carr, absolutely not. Trey Lance, if you haven't had a quarterback by this time, he could be one you want to look at, but you need to start looking now and fast.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go ahead and go over the last bit that we're going to go over today and go into the 10th round here. And there's some guys here that I'm just kind of flabbergasted at. So we'll dive into it real quick here. Follow along with us here. We have Christian Kirk, Ronald Jones, Tyler Lockett, Kadarius Toney, Raheem Mostert, Chase Claypool, Drake London, Russell Gage, Isaiah Spiller, Pat Freiermuth, J.D. McKissic, and Tyler Algier. Now, there's a lot of players in here to go over. Christian Kirk is the new, I'm going to say, number one wide receiver over Marvin Jones there. He signed a huge contract with Jacksonville to be a main guy for Trevor Lawrence. Ronald Jones ended up leaving the Buccaneers, going over to the Chiefs, kind of backing up Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now there's actually rumors coming out. I think it came out last week that Ronald Jones is actually on the bubble right now. Who knows if he's even going to make the team? Tyler Lockett, wow. How has he fallen? I mean, and I get it. I completely get it. Tyler Lockett was an amazing deep down the field threat. Now either you're going to have Geno Smith or Drew Lock throwing you the ball. No, thank you. I'll pass on Tyler Lockett. Kadarius Toney, playing for the Giants. I think he's got amazing potential. Great value here in the 10th round. Raheem Mostert, Mustard, I don't know. But he's going to be the backup to Chase Edmonds. I don't think he's going to be anything over there. And then last but not least, in this section right here is Chase Claypool. I can't believe he's in the 10th round. The dude's a great wide receiver. I just think he's way too low here. What's your thoughts on the left side here of the 10th round board here?
Way too low, you say?
I think he's too low. I think Chase Claypool deserves to be at least in maybe the 7th or 8th round. I strongly believe that myself.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand his position here in the 10th. There's so many question marks with the Steelers overall, but especially with the passing game. Who's the quarterback? And when you have a rookie quarterback come in, can he produce? Listen, Chase Claypool isn't even the first receiving option on the team. He's not even the second.
You're right.
Because Najee has that lockdown. And then you've got Pat Freiermuth, which is breaking out. He's a romance that I have going on with me personally. But right. Chase, I am very off on Chase Claypool. Even here in the 10th, I would much rather have Christian Kirk, Kadarius Toney, Drake London. Drake London could be the number one receiver for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
Rookie coming in. There's nobody else. If you're not paying attention, Julio Jones is gone. That other guy, what was his name? I think he made kind of a small splash.
The guy right below him?
No, not even Russell Gage. He's gone too. What? No.
Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley, yes. Just
the guy who wanted to bet a couple $100 on some sports.
That guy, yeah. Nobody can't remember his name anymore. But Drake London could be the number one receiver.
Yeah.
Yes, for a crappy team. Yes, for a questionable quarterback. But you're talking about even more questionable than the Steelers right here? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Give me Drake London, please. Russell Gage, no. But Pat Freiermuth, yeah, again, you're throwing those darts at these players. But
yeah.
Kadarius Toney showed us that he can already do it, and there's not much change to that team. So out of this round in the receiver position, I like Kadarius Toney for sure.
Yeah, and I know we touched a little bit on the right side as well. I like Drake London. I think he's going to be in a negative game script. Garbage time stats still count for fantasy football. They're going to throw the ball a lot. He's going to catch a lot of balls. I mean, 1 + 1 = 2 last I checked. Draft Drake London in the 10th round. I have no problem with that. Russell Gage, if he can stay healthy, he'll be the slot receiver for Tom Brady. I like that as well. Isaiah Spiller, he's already dropped to the 3rd running back spot. He's behind Kelly now with Eckler at the number 1. I would not touch Spiller with a 10-foot pole. Pat Freiermuth, I really like Pat Freiermuth this year. No matter who's going to be the quarterback, whether it's going to be Mitchell Trubisky or whether it's going to be the quarterback Kenny Pickett, if you're a rookie quarterback or a quarterback who's struggled before trying to prove himself, they're more likely going to be dinking and dunking to the tight end. Pat Freiermuth, every year he's been into the league, he's producing. He's rocking and rolling. He's going to come into another year and going to give you what you want as a fantasy option. And in the 10th round, pass on the Wallers, pass on the Kittles, pass on the Kelseys. grab Pat Freiermuth in the 10th round, stack up on your running backs and your wide receivers. You can grab Pat Freiermuth here, and you could possibly even get either a Trey Lance, a Dak Prescott in the 8th or 9th round. Your team's looking solid, right? And then the last two here, we're talking about J.D. McKissic. We already went over what he's going to do. There's a reason why the Commanders matched him to go to the Bills. Are you really going to match a player that's leaving your team to say, no, we're going to give you your money, come back to our team, now go sit on the damn bench? No, they're not going to say that. They're going to use it. They're going to be utilizing the offense. But now that Gibson's probably going to be kicked to the curb, you're going to probably see Brian Robinson Jr. as the number 1 running back. And on 3rd down, you're going to see J.D. McKissic come in the ball game. I think that's going to have to be. And then last but not least, Tyler Algier. Right now, I think last we checked, he was 5th on the depth chart. But I think I think it's a bit of a rookie hazing going on right now with the head coach. I think he's going to be the starting running back. I don't think that anyone, I think it's Darrell Williams right now is named the number 1 running back right now. That ain't gonna stay put. Tyler Algier will be the number 1 running back over Cordell Patterson, over all these guys. It doesn't matter. I'm liking Tyler Algier. He's gonna be somebody that if you do draft, you might want to sit on your bench, because early on the season I wouldn't really want to touch him. And that's kind of my analysis on the 10th round. Tyler, do you want to give me your final thoughts on the 10th round?
This is an amazing video, man. I think that there's a lot of potential fantasy input here, and I just want to challenge everybody to take some of this to heart as you're going through your draft. The draft is the beginning of your season. It's not your end-all be-all, but if you come out of the draft and you've done poorly, you're not going to do well. You can't predict injuries. You can't determine what the end is going to be before we get there. But when you take this information and you use it to better your choices and better your picks and your predictions, that's when you have that better chance of getting that excellent start to your fantasy season here in 2022.
Yeah, absolutely. And to end out the video, I want to thank Tyler for coming along. If you guys want to follow Tyler on Twitter, you can reach him at TLMaxi13. You can reach me on Twitter at BayouBingo25. As always, I appreciate you for watching the video. If you want to help me out, hit the subscribe button. If you're not subscribed yet, what are you doing? Can't wait to see you guys in the next video. We'll see you guys next time.